I was born in Buffalo, New York. I'm not a New York City area native. I left Buffalo, New York when I joined the Navy in the mid-'70s. I served as a naval officer assigned to the Atlantic Fleet, was deployed to the Eastern Mediterranean, Middle East a couple of times. After law school, or after the Navy, I went to law school at St. John's. My wife and I moved to the New York City area. I was married at the time, actually married before we went in the Navy. And we moved here to the New York area to go to St. John's, and ultimately we moved to Peekskill about 29 years ago. We live up in the woods, and we've been spent all of our time in Peekskill in the woods, and we love it there. My first job out of law school, I was an assistant district attorney in the Brooklyn DA's office, where I prosecuted major felonies. A good part of my time was spent in the Domestic Abuse and Sex Crimes Bureau, where we prosecuted crimes against children, crimes against women, sex crimes primarily, and crimes against the elderly. I went into private practice in the mid-'80s, and ultimately in the year 2004, I formed my own law practice in Manhattan, and I practice primarily insurance defense, professional liability defense. During my time in the woods, my volunteer activity in the community has been primarily the president of the Woods 3 in Westchester Homeowners Association, where I'm responsible for the maintenance of the infrastructure, the roads, just about everything, the water, the sewers, for 344 homeowners up in the woods. You know, one of the things most recently, as head of the Woods 3 and Westchester Homeowners Association, we received a notice from the city that we had to purchase the new electronic water meters that were being installed. And while we're in favor of this new technology, because it helps us monitor our water use much better, the city initially asked us to pay $70,000. That would have required us to go ahead and assess all of our unit owners for the cost of those meters. Ultimately, when I was actually writing the letter for the assessment, I took a look at the city code, and being a lawyer by trade, I read the city code and found out that we weren't obligated to pay for the water meters. In fact, the city was obligated to pay for those water meters. We formed an alliance with a couple of other condominiums, Chapel Hill, Society Hill, and we submitted a letter to the city council. Actually, I appeared before Cal, and the mayor asked me to submit the letter. And upon review of our letter and our position, the city council agreed, and not only the Woods, but all the other condominiums received their water meters free. And in addition to the condominiums, primarily all the businesses in town also received their water meters free. So it's that kind of advocacy that I've gotten involved in, really as part and parcel of my role as the president of Woods 3 in Westchester. And in addition to being president of the Homeowners Association, I might add I'm also president of one of the condominiums, which is responsible primarily for the buildings. And I've been doing that for 25 years, and the budget for that is roughly $400,000. So managing budgets, managing costs, managing infrastructure is something I've done for quite some time. I'm running for city council primarily because I became concerned about what's going on down in City Hall, primarily the political atmosphere that is brought into the city chamber. My wife and I became distressed about some of the activities. Probably you've seen a great deal about it on social media, and my wife and I brought a special proceeding against the Common Council because of the way they implemented the 2016 budget. What they did, and primarily when I say they, it was the Democratic majority, they put forth a budget, believe it or not, that is subject to public hearing. They never put forth their budget. They put forth the city manager's budget. So the public never really saw the final version of the budget that the Common Council arrived at. When it came time to implement the budget, the last possible day they could do it, they played politics again, and they had this conjured up vote where it would look like two of the Common Council members who voted for no tax increase could vote against the minimal tax increase that the other Democrats were in favor of, but not being knowledgeable about their own voting rules, they improperly voted in the budget. And I didn't determine, and the judge didn't determine that that initial budget vote was improper. The city attorney did. They themselves negated that budget. And then the next day, they held a meeting without notification to two members of the council, heckled the mayor out of the chamber because he wouldn't participate in what was basically an illegal meeting. And I thought it was time to do something. You have to follow the chart. And my wife and I brought a special proceeding against the Common Council, and a Democrat judge in a 20-page opinion, agreed with our position that in fact that meeting was invalid and that the budget was improperly enacted. But one thing that has to be made clear, and it's come out in social media since I've announced for the candidacy for Common Council, that I'm a Dino, a Democrat in name only. No, I'm not. I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat since 1970. And the politicization of the activities of the city council is not what Democrats do. Democrats sit down, they look at problems, they work through problems, they work with people across party lines to solve those problems. That's why I joined the Peekskill United ticket. I wanted to reach across party lines, roll up sleeves, and solve problems, not make speeches about national politics and matters. We all have our opinions about national politics. I voted Democrat in the presidential election. I truly did. And it would surprise people who I voted for in the primary, and it wasn't Hillary Clinton. Now, that's something people find hard to believe. But that's on the national level. I have opinions. But I'm a Democrat for a reason, because the history of that party is what enacted the GI Bill that put me through law school. That's the party that enacted college programs when I was going to college in the 70s. And that's why I still think it's the general philosophy of the party is something that I adhere to. But it's not what's happening here in Peekskill. What they're adhering to is these political agendas and this doctrinal our way or the highway, and primarily I view it as geared solely to target specific groups to keep themselves in power. It's not what Democrats do. It's not what the Common Council should do. That's why I'm running for Common Council. I think primarily one of the things we have to look at is, and I think we can do very easily, is maintain our tax base static right now, or our tax level, tax rate. And I think we can do that because we have online, and what have come online for the past couple of years, are real development projects. They're going to be coming to fruition. So we can at least keep our tax rate static, but we'll have a broader tax base. What we should be doing with some of that money, instead of cutting taxes and trying to manipulate the budget, what I think we really need to do is set aside money to improve infrastructure. I'm tremendously concerned about the fact that about every hour we have water main breaks in the city. And that's a problem, because if we don't tend to these issues, that's going to come back and get us. It certainly is. Also, I think to the extent we can in our budget, we need to set aside money to improve our parks. We have a beautiful park system in the city. And we just spent, the state and the city spent millions down along the riverfront to build that riverwalk. And yet, it's starting to get a little rough around the edges. We need to make sure that we have the staff and the manpower to make those parks beautiful for our citizens, make them attractive for people who want to come to our city on day trips on the Metro North and come and spend money in our stores and our businesses. And also, again, solve some of these problems that are egging our business community downtown. Garbage collection is one of them. There's garbage all over the place. We need to come to a solution on how to dispose of garbage in the downtown area and to make sure that our streets are clean so it's a good appearance for people, our visitors, and our citizens who go through downtown. Well, again, I support our police. As I mentioned, my first job was an assistant district attorney. I worked very closely with the police. I think some of the things we have to enhance in terms of public safety, some of the areas of our city, particularly around Bowman Towers, a lot of people there are concerned about public safety and about what goes on in crime and drug use and drug dealing. I think we have to develop a plan with our police department to focus on target areas, much like the city did. In New York City, when I was an assistant district attorney in Brooklyn, there was a Wild West show. There was crime everywhere and a dead body in every street every night. They came in with tactics where they focused police on specific areas. They monitored the high crime areas. We're a much smaller city. That's something we could probably do. We could work with our police chief to do that. And it does happen. Up in the woods, periodically we have a lot of break-ins in cars and things of that nature. We report it to our police department. They're on it. They're everywhere. And that problem's solved. There's no reason why we can't do that in some of the more areas where citizens are calling out for us to do something, to take action. Not that the police aren't active on it, but perhaps tweaking a plan that enhances public safety in those areas. One of the things I think that we have to do as a city and a common council is invest more and target more in our programs for youth. Kids are learning what they need to do in the schools. They learn the writing, the reading, the arithmetic. One of the things we have to do better, I think, is develop programs perhaps in concert with our business community to teach kids that are coming out of school or still in high school what it's like to work and the skills they need. I know the READY program recently that was announced in the city is targeted to that, is focused upon that. I think we got to do more and better on that aspect. Kids have to get out. They have to know what time to report for work, that their boss is not their friend. And those are skills that are going to carry them through the rest of their lives. You've got to learn them now. And I think that's important. Shared services to the extent we can with the school district. You know, if there's any duplication in services, if there's anything the city can do in terms of resources, we have to sit down more with the school board and find out. They have their area of responsibility and their area of expertise, and we have ours, and we have to constructively trade ideas and concepts on how we can do better. Remember, all the money for all these programs and all the money for our children comes out of two pockets, you know, the city money and city taxes. The children are our citizens and our residents, and so they're entitled to our focus. And obviously the school district is more focused to children. But I think that's an initiative I think we can do better on, I think, through that.